Welcome, everyone. So as you've heard from us before, hi, Kathy Lee. As you've heard from us before, we are getting ready for the release of the new finger stick dried blood spot leaky gut test or gut health test that will be released, let's see, October 10th at the annual event.
Yes.
And it's very exciting. And so gut health has been this topic for us. And if this is your first time with us on this Zinzino Science Insights, welcome. Welcome so much. I'm Dr. Natalie Kather. I'm a medical doctor, and I double boarded in family medicine and anti-aging medicine. And when I had my clinic, I specialized in integrative medicine, hormone balancing, and of course, metabolic medicine, human performance for everybody. And my amazing husband, Stephen, is a nutritional biochemist, and he has served as chief science officer for 4 different nutritional companies. And we are quite honored to be members of the scientific advisory board for Zinzino, as well as Zinzino independent partners. And Stephen, would you like to say anything more about?
No, we're going to lead this afternoon or this evening if you're from the UK. We're going to lead with a story which illustrates something new, as we've been talking in previous weeks about the gut-brain axis and about how the health of your gut affects the health of your brain because of information which is traveling from your gut through the vagus nerve to the brain. And so everybody's kind of getting understanding, and that's important. But I'm going to lead with another story, which talks about the other way, which is that things going on in your brain and how they affect the gut. So it's a two-way street here. And so I want to bring up a study, how chronic stress disrupts the gut microbiome. And so what we're going to see here is very interesting. Number one, it's talking about how chronic stress is common. And how common is it? Well, 3/4 of the population studied reported that chronic stress affects their daily lives. Emerging evidence suggests that chronic stress not only acts as a high toll on mental health, but also wreaks havoc on all levels of the GI tract, all the way down to the microbiome. So what we're talking about here then is a mechanism of action, which is quite interesting, which is that the changes in the biochemistry resulting from chronic stress then have an effect on the microbiome, both in terms of the diversity of the microbiome and the ability of the intestinal barrier to fight infection. So you got two double whammies, in other words. If you're not managing stress, you've got two double whammies. Number one, you're going to reduce the diversity of the organisms in your gut, which is a bad thing. Which is called dysbiosis. At the same time, you're going to compromise the ability of the immune system, which resides in your gut. You're going to compromise the ability of the immune system to protect you against infection. So that's incredibly important. Now, I want to bring up some quotable quotes from this study so we don't have to read the whole thing. Quotable quotes. A randomized controlled study of healthy adults found that look at this is a new term, a psychobiotic diet, a diet high in prebiotic foods, was associated with less perceived stress and beneficial shifts in microbial composition. Quote, these foods can help keep the gut in good health and may actually reduce or mitigate some of the effects of stress. Now, what do we know about prebiotics, Natalie?
We have xenobiotic.
Aha.
It has 8 natural fibers. And when the good bacteria munch on them, it helps them to become healthier, to do a better job at reproducing and creating more good bacteria, as well as creating beneficial short-chain fatty acids, B vitamins, and other important nutrients for good gut health and full body health.
So definitely xenobiotic. But again, do not ever forget the other anti-stress Zinzino product, which is Viva, right? So understand that this is anxiolytic, which means it reduces anxiety, and it does it not by a drug mechanism, but by a mechanism of restoring balance to your brain biochemistry, which is really important, which is safe, which is effective, and which has been shown in published human clinical trials, even a clinical trial with children. Viva. All right, so let's go on. We also encourage, this is from the study, we also encourage patients to engage in regular physical activity, which benefits the gut microbiome by helping to regulate gut motility. And we forget that oftentimes, right? When I was in clinical practice, I was in clinical practice for decades, talking with patients in hospitals and in medical clinics where I worked. And I would see often I would see a patient and their main complaint was their GI issues, constipation, or irregular bowel movements, difficulty with digestion. And I would always ask them, do you take at least one walk per day? No, I wake up in the morning, I drive to work, I sit at my desk, I drive home, and I sit and I have my dinner, and then I sit and I watch television.
Hmm.
And I say, well, how do you think your gut, which depends on movement, how do you expect your gut to behave in a regular way and in an effective way if you don't move? So that was one thing that I wanted to underscore regarding this particular medical article, and that is that we really do need to emphasize, not only with our friends and family, but with the people that we talk to, that exercise is part and parcel of this entire picture. Natalie and I are blessed. We live on a high bluff overlooking Puget Sound, which is a beautiful body of water. And our path down to Puget Sound travels along a beautiful stream with the sounds of the water rushing over the rocks and the nooks and crannies of the forest. And there's bird song on all sides of us as we walk down to the beach. This is our walk. So we do this at least twice or three times a day. Why? Because it's there. You may not have that opportunity, but everyone can find a park or a beach or a mountain or a field or a stream, somewhere to go to get your forest therapy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, when I was growing up, a term that was used in my family and community, and I don't know if it was unique, was quit your belly aching.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
term. Yeah.
Whole concept of the gut-brain axis. Raise your hand if you had that in when you were growing up as well. Thank you. Okay, so I'm not alone. All right. All right, so let's quit our belly aching and let's look at some other wonderful things going on in the products with Zinzino. And today, I'd like to focus our attention on curcumin. And X-Gold is filled with curcumin. So is ZinoGene. It's that beautiful yellow stuff.
Ah,
It gets on everything if you're not careful, but so X-Gold, this was a product that was acquired when in 2024, Zinzino acquired the company Zealous, and so this has now been branded a Zinzino product because of its high quality. And today I'm going to talk about for gut health, let's practice what I call the Curcumin Good Cycle.
ah, nice.
Yeah. And looking at the ingredients here, it's a really clean formulation. Wow. It's curcumin and it's a little bit of black pepper. And then when we look at the other ingredients, the glycerin helps give it a sweet taste to it.
So vegetable glycerin.
Thank you. And then just a little bit of gum acacia as a stabilizer because we want it to have good shelf life.
Yeah.
And so that's a nice natural antioxidant.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, when we look on the website, we see the key benefits are listed as strengthening the immune system, optimizing digestion, protecting cells and tissues because of its antioxidant activity, and of course, helping to fight acute and chronic inflammation. And again, it's a clean formulation.
So what we're talking about is everybody knows if you talk to the average person, the average health conscious person, asking me, do you know about curcumin benefits? They're going to say, yeah, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. Everybody's going to know that. What Natalie's going to talk about now is something completely new that you may not be aware of.
Yeah, we could, talk for 3 days about the
Inf-
expansiveness of the good curcumin cycle, but we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it fun. All right, so curcumin, it turns out, acts as a prebiotic through several well-characterized pathways. And of course, as we just mentioned with the xenobiotic, feeding those bacteria, they take advantage of that nutrient. And in this case, especially Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus, you've probably heard of these good bacteria. They're associated with the anti-inflammatory and barrier protective effects of the intestine. So I just thought I'd create a little visual here. This could be a
Microbiome.
microbiome, and then there's a happy bacteria, and that might be Bifidobacterium there, and there's Lactobacillus. Curcumin
Oh, and there's Akkermansia.
No, that's Akkermansia.
Okay, that's Akkermansia.
That's Lanchnospira. Anyways, we've been doing some reading. Curcumin elevates the population of these beneficial short chain fatty acid producing microbes, making butyrate, acetate, propionate, and those are essential for fueling. They're making food for our intestinal cells. Isn't that good? And of course, anti-inflammatory. And studies show that if you supplement curcumin every day, it increases your microbial diversity. So we just heard how stress does just the opposite. So especially if you're under a lot of stress, you need to be mindful about feeding the gut good nutrients like curcumin.
Yeah. Now, so far, we've thrown a bunch of words at you in terms like short chain fatty acids and all that. The nice thing about all of this is that we're talking about structure and function claims, structure of the human body and the function of various aspects of your physiology. We have not said anything about any diseases. So this is all perfectly safe and compliant information that we're giving you. At the same time, it's pretty impactful, I would say.
Oh,
I
definitely.
mean, to me, this is all great news about why another Zinzino product will be so good to include in your daily diet.
Wonderful. Now we're going to get a little more sciencey, but it's exciting.
Oh, warning, warning.
So there are neurotransmitter sort of cells in your gut, and these are called enterochromaffin. We're just going to call them EC cells, and I want you to remember that your EC cells make serotonin, which is a serenity hormone, and so take it easy and enhance the activity of your EC cells.
Now, serotonin, as you all are familiar with the term serotonin. You might remember that it's a neurotransmitter. It's produced, synthesized in the brain, but it's also, most of the serotonin receptors are where? In the gut. So it goes both ways. So the information and the biochemistry of your gut reflects upon the state of your mind, and the state of your mind reflects upon the biodiversity of the microbes in your gut. It's really so intriguing to me that there's this constant communication back and forth between the brain and the gut.
You're going to hear today a lot of concepts where you'll be like, wait a second, when you talked about saffron, that's what saffron does too.
Aha.
Yeah.
Saffron.
Viva! So these cells create serotonin, and these EC, we'll give them their abbreviation, cells say, we're your gut emotion cells, and we love curcumin. It makes us secrete serotonin. Baby. The nearby microbes get a whiff of that serotonin, and they go crazy happy, and they massage us with their acetate and butyrate and make us make more. And then serotonin says, after EC makes us, we inspire benefits in the gut microbes. We enter the nerve synapses and we ride platelets in the bloodstream to other amazing places in the body.
Wow. So again, we're talking about benefits that extend beyond the confines of your gut. And so literally we're talking about whole body health here.
For sure. So this serotonin pathway, this affects the microbe by populations, like who's living there, who's not living there, kind of the shift again of more beneficial activity and less detrimental activity. And so I've summarized this into what I call the Curcumin Good Cycle.
Nice.
And thank you. So you take curcumin. The EC cells make more gut serotonin.
Ah,
The gut microbes are like, hey, I smell some serotonin. I like that. And they go over and they stimulate the EC cells to make more serotonin, actually by creating nutrients like the acetate and butyrate, which act on the gene level of the EC cell, which then makes more of the enzymes that convert amino acids into serotonin.
wow.
It's this wonderful cycle, and then that serotonin again affects who's living in the gut.
And all that information goes from the vagus nerve right up to the brain.
Exactly. So here is the gut, and right here where the star is, this is an EC cell, and look at that pocket of serotonin and all those other good neurotransmitters that EC cell is putting into where the bacteria are for creating this amazing communication and relationship. It's symbiotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gut-brain axis. Supplementing curcumin has such an important role with making the serotonin, and this affects our vagal nerve. And so when we have better vagal nerve function, then our digestion works better.
Wow.
Food moves down the way it's supposed to. So that's the concept of serenity with serotonin. Now let's move into the concept of harmony with another important neurotransmitter that we also talked about during saffron, which is gamma aminobutyric acid. Oh, and we've also talked about how beta glucans,
Ah,
yes, stimulate microbiota to make GABA. And so with curcumin, it influences the gut also with increased production of GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, and it can act locally. Sounds familiar, just like the serotonin, but it can also signal through the vagus nerve. And this interplay of curcumin, who's living in the gut, and the intestinal GABA signaling is a key pathway for the gut-brain axis. Thank you, curcumin. And the microbiome, the microbes, the curcumin affects them personally in that it helps them to become more energetic, survive, do their job better. So bifidobacterium, his close friends call him Biff or Bifido. He says Superman gets his strength from the yellow sun. I get mine from yellow curcumin.
oh, good for you. Easy to remember.
Yeah, and look how happy he is.
I know.
Yeah. So curcumin is also a substrate for the work of the microbes. So they take that curcumin and they change it around and they add some things, they take some things away, but is basically converting that curcumin into other important nutrients that are important for their own being, but also for our beings. So curcumin's prebiotic activity, again, prebiotic, we're talking about nutrients coming in, feeding the good bacteria, is shown through how it modulates who's living in the gut, increased beneficial bacteria growth, short chain fatty acid production, probiotic viability support, and of course, supporting the metabolic substrates. And we don't want to forget the vagal nerve again. Curcumin's role in helping with vagal nerve health, reducing inflammation, and it also helps protect nerves because of these actions. So curcumin promotes the release of neurotransmitters also like acetylcholine through vagal activation, which again helps reduce inflammation, cytokines, and oxidative stress, supporting improved vagal nerve health and function. So the recommended action plan is take your X-Gold or your ZinoGene, all these beautiful yellow tablets, daily to practice the Curcumin Good Cycle.
Ah, the Curcumin Good Cycle.
Curcumin Good
Beautiful. I
Cycle,
love
and
it.
lots of
Lots of references for you biochemists and healthcare professionals who need reliable evidence for any statements that we have made. So, wow, incredibly important and
yeah.
way to go.
Thank you.
Way to go, Natalie. So I know John Picanzi is on with us today, and John has always asked for give us more detailed information and clinical terms. So, John, was that enough for you today?
Oh, thank you.
Good.
Kathy Lee says, can you please refer us to a document that compares the prebiotic to the need for probiotic and postbiotic so we can answer prospects aware of all three and why Zinzino chooses the prebiotic?
Well, it's interesting because the study that I cited, or the article, the medical article that I cited, how chronic stress disrupts the gut microbiome, you'll notice that, can you bring up the quotes again, quotable quotes?
Yes, hang on my list.
Because you'll notice that in this analysis, and this was a review of multiple studies, and in the analysis, the authors said um, a recent randomized controlled trial of healthy adults found a psychobiotic diet, a diet high in prebiotic foods, was associated with less perceived stress and beneficial shifts in microbial composition. Later on in this article, they specifically stated that they are recommending prebiotic foods and not probiotic supplements. Why is that? Because the probiotic supplements they said was a shot in the dark. It basically you're taking a formulation and you're throwing it in the gut, but they're basically saying it's a shot in the dark. You have no real evidence that there is a specific formulation of probiotics that will improve the gut microflora. Interesting and important, which is why we are talking about a prebiotic that specifically, each one of these fibers specifically supports a particular strain of beneficial flora. So, what you're doing here is you're supporting the beneficial flora, knowing that in a competitive environment, they will overcome any of the pathogenic flora or microorganisms, the bad microorganisms that may be residing in your gut.
So, do you recommend then that Kathy Lee take a screenshot of this title so she can use that?
Yes.
Um,
Great idea.
okay.
Great idea. Yeah.
And um, great. And then Michael. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad this is useful, Mike. Thank you. And Marna says, what if we don't have enough good gut bacteria for the prebiotics to munch on? So,
Well, that's where a lot of times we would recommend a probiotic foods, and these are the wide range of fermented foods, including obviously yogurt, but also any of the fermented foods like sauerkraut, and any fermented foods that are available in your grocery store. So those will all provide beneficial bacteria. If you want to throw a probiotic in there, fine. I mean, it's not going to harm you. It's just that there is no good data showing that a specific formulation of probiotics is going to give you specific benefits. So that's the science is not there. But if you want to add a probiotic once in a while, be my guest. It's perfectly fine. But again, a good mix of fermented foods and yogurts will do the same thing.
um, okay. Would you recommend taking the full health protocol before being able to have the gut blood test while it's still not available? Thanks. For sure. We already know that this is a system, a program that is beneficial. And each day we make 300 billion new cells. You know, you have the tools, don't deprive them of all the possibilities of better cellular health, better gut health, and do the test when it comes and see where you're at. And then if it makes sense for you to add X-Gold or ZinoGene, or Viva to your regimen, you are now aware of how your gut will like that. All right. Oh, okay. Great question, Frenna. Yes. She says, I was recommended to take turmeric, which is what X-Gold is, um, and where curcumin comes from, as an anti-inflammatory. I understand it works in a different part of the anti-inflammatory process compared to omega-3. Can you explain? And I know you wish you had your whiteboard right here and you would draw out that cascade and talk about how omega-3 hits inflammation issues at the top of the cascade and curcumin at the
Curcumin works at the bottom of the inflammatory cascade, where specific metabolites of arachidonic acid are converted to cytokines, or I should say, inflammatory proteins through COX-1 and LOX enzyme pathways. So the downregulation of the enzymatic conversion of these fatty acids into inflammatory proteins, that's where curcumin plays a critical role.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. What good conversations today. And Stephen has a really interesting question that came up that you'd like to talk about.
Well, we've got a number of people this week asked us about all the genomic testing that is being advertised on social media. There's a number of different laboratories that are announcing epigenetic testing, and you should sign up for epigenetic testing with this company or that company, and this company has, 100 biomarkers, and this company has 150 biomarkers that they're analyzing, and perhaps there's even more than 150
And now you're going to
biomarkers.
explain what epigenetic means, right?
Oh, yes. So,
Okay.
So we all have a genome, and your genome is basically the genetic package that you inherited from your father and your mother.
Lots of DNA.
Lots of DNA, and that combination of genetic material from your father and your mother became your genome. That is your unique genetic package that then controls every aspect of your life, basically. But that's your genome. And those genes don't change, but the expression of those genes do change, and they change a lot depending on your environment, depending on your age, depending on how much you exercise, depending on what you eat, depending on your state of mind, depending on how you sleep,
depending on who's in your gut.
Yes, so all of these factors change the way that think of your genes as a dimmer switch. Every gene in your cell is a dimmer switch. It can be on, off, or anything in between, right? So the in between, that's the gene expression. So this dimmer switch can be on or off. Now keep in mind that most of the genes in your genome are off right now. Right? Most of your genes, right, are in the off position. And they are placed in the on position on specific requirements of that cell. But those genes don't change. It's the expression of the gene. It's that dimmer switch that gets turned up or gets turned down. So these are called epigenetic changes. So now, since we can sequence genes in the human genome, we can sequence those. We can look at the gene expression of each gene. Imagine when I was back doing this work, 20 years ago, we could maybe analyze the genes of I don't know, maybe a handful of genes in a human being. And now, literally, there's technologies that you can look at the entire human genome. Not amazing. It's just astounding. So are we on the threshold of a real breakthrough in information that was going to be available to us? The question is, number one, uh, are the populations that are being studied, are those populations big enough to make confident predictions? In other words, when you pay money for one of these epigenetic studies, have they analyzed enough people, right? Is the database big enough for them to make really confident statements that if you make this change in your behavior, your diet, or your supplements, it will result in this benefit. I'm thinking it's a little too early. Why? Because when I look at these companies making these statements and I ask them for their data set, there's usually a couple of thousand subjects that they studied. Now, I'm not going to give them any money until they've got a couple of million. Personally, I'm not going to do that. Now, what I want you to understand is that, so I'm saying that it's a little bit too early to be putting a lot of emphasis on these epigenetic studies. Where does Zinzino fit in? Which is what the question's coming down to. Is Zinzino working on epigenetic analysis? And the answer is no. Zinzino took a different approach, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. Write this down, because if anybody asks you about this epigenetic flurry of companies and tests that are out there, you're going to want to have a response, and here it is. If there are hundreds of biomarkers, and there are at least hundreds, there may be even thousands of biomarkers, where do you put your money? Where do you put your attention? Because there's only 24 hours in a day, and there's only a certain amount of money that we have at our disposal. What Zinzino said was, of all these biomarkers, and Zinzino was aware of the biomarkers, but of all these biomarkers, what are the most important ones, right, that we can not only accurately test, but more importantly, that we can actually affect in a beneficial way? What are the most, of all these thousands of biomarkers, right, that are going to be analyzed with genomic testing, what are the tests, what are the biomarkers that we can accurately test and that we can accurately give you information regarding how to improve that value? That's what Zinzino said was, well, guess what? I would list number one being the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. I would say that is, in my book, the most important biomarker that you can take a test tomorrow, understand the results of that test, and take steps to improve that biomarker. Is there another one that I would put my money on? Yeah, how about a test that would measure the integrity of your barrier mechanism in your gut? A test that would give you the ability to measure your intestinal integrity and then give you products that reliably have been shown to improve that biomarker. Yeah, so Zinzino basically said, of all these thousands of biomarkers, we know that there's one, which is really, really number one, which is omega-6 to omega-3. And we know that there's another one, and guess what? We've got that handled too. So to me, Zinzino has put themselves at the head of the parade, right, with this understanding of really where to put your money, your time, and your attention. And maybe ultimately all those other genomic factors will be revealed with large population studies. But right now, there's two studies that I'll put my money on any day of the week. Omega-6 to omega-3, right? Proven way to improve that value. And number two, intestinal integrity, which is the barrier mechanism of your gut, which has a tremendous effect on your overall health.
For sure. And the whole epigenetic thing, well, let's go back to the cell membranes. The nuclear membrane, what is its composition?
Yeah.
What is the cellular membrane, the mitochondrial membrane? So whatever that cell needs to be able to do its work optimally goes back to what is your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio? What is your omega-3 index percent?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Mwah. See you next week.
Great call, you guys.
Great presentation. Thank you.
All right, John.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.